That's about what I expected.
Little careless whisper.
Music makes a movie.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I sent this to my dad, and he didn't respond.
He's just like, oh my God, I've never kept it on that long where he like turns around and like shakes
He
his head.
smiles at
That's
the
so
Zoom.
good.
Welcome to another amazing episode of Jiu-Jitsu by the Train Tracks. I am James Williams. Your host is here, Jeffrey F. Spain. Enjoying another lovely rainy day at our lovely facility. What a good friend of ours, Mr. Sam Ives. How you doing, Sam?
Doing really well, man. How you doing?
Yeah?
I know when I was supposed to come in there.
Yeah, no, don't worry. He'll edit it so it all flows beautifully.
He's checking his DMs, you know. He's
Really?
Oh, no, he's not. He's checking on his baby monitor.
That's right, new papa. That's been going pretty good?
Yeah, it's been going really well. There's definitely this change, but it's kind of strange because you just do it. You know, it's like, you both have kids, right? Yeah, it's like literally the baby's born and you're like, my priorities are immediately different.
Yeah,
I don't care nearly as much about a bunch of other stuff that I cared way more about before. So it's kind of weird. You just immediately like shift into this other gear, and it's probably evolution, making sure that we take care of our babies, but you just don't care about other stuff. You know,
I never realized like how selfish I was, you know, like before having
like,
a kid.
Man, I did a lot of stuff. Like for me, I was driving up here because I crossed over Old Hickory Lake, and me and my wife last summer like took kayaks and like went across the island and like hung out. And I was like, can't do that for a while unless someone else is watching, baby. Unless I want to put her like in a kayak behind me.
I was gonna say, I was
like tote her across.
Maybe 4 or 5 strapped together, get a little more buoyancy.
Maybe a canoe or something, but you know, that was something where I was like, man, that experience is not going to happen again. That I would probably do all the time.
I'd have to.
It will. You just got to give it some time. She'll come along too.
It's not. You just not at 3 months.
Oh yeah,
no.
man. Yeah,
No.
you are fresh, man.
That's a weird car seat.
Are you changing diapers?
Yeah.
Good.
I do the whole deal.
You gotta ask, because some people don't.
Some dudes are like, nah,
That ain't me.
that ain't me.
How colorful can I get on this?
Oh, you can get as colorful as you want.
So
man.
basically how I've explained this to people, because some people are like, man, having babies is like really hard. And I'm like, man, I do not identify with that at all. And like, I get it. Like some babies like scream their heads off and are like, just are the way they are. But I've basically decided it's if you just don't have a partner who's willing to do anything, that's what makes it hard. Because if my wife was alone, it would be terrible. But
Sure.
like, because there's 2 of us and we're both focused, it's not that big of a deal. One kid, 2 people can tackle pretty easily, as long as that kid's not, you know, just crazy and can't be settled, which is completely different. But it's been difficult, but she's been at home for the last like 3 months because she teaches, and so she'll go back to school here. But we have both sets of parents at home. We've got her being at home, so it's been a pretty easy time. It just would only suck if I was just like sitting at home like playing video games the entire time. Or
Oh yeah.
that would then it would be really difficult. So
You know, my thing was my daughter. She was a horrible baby. I tell her that to this day. I tell my wife, if she didn't get it together soon, she probably wouldn't have had a brother. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, no, that's what I think is I'm being tricked. This is
Yeah, your second one is going to be the one that gives it to you.
That's why we should like cut it off now. It's like, we got a good one. Just don't do anything else. Don't change anything. This is great. Times are.
And it wasn't anything that she specifically did. She had colic when she was born.
Yeah, she's
so and not only that, she had sundowners. So every day at 5 o'clock, she would cry until about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, and you're just like,
like
let me sleep.
It's insanity. And luckily, I work nights, so I wasn't there for most of it. But my wife would call me and say, "I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
She won't stop crying. It's like, "Do you want me to come home?" Like,
no,
don't come home because you got to work. And it's like, so what do you want me to do? Like, I can't be there. I can't be here. Like.
No, man, that's like, I've had that conversation so many times where I'll be like, even across the street working at my gym. and she'll call me.
I like the little look you just give.
And she'll
I'll
call
play
me.
with that in the post.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And she'll call me and be like, she's crying. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, do you want me to like leave? She's like, no, don't leave. I was like, okay, cool. Sorry.
But they don't want to get off the phone either.
No, but they're just like, it's really like wanting to vent. And I've gotten into the same thing. This actually happened the other day where she was crying for something, and it only been like 20 minutes. And I almost like picked up the phone to call her and be like, this baby won't stop crying. I was like, no. So then I'm just the same person.
Yep.
So I'm just not going to do that. But
It's tough, man.
Well, good for you, man.
but it's honestly been a lot of fun. And like Ellen is a great mom, and it's been very easy.
Good.
For what people tell you. Because I feel like everyone wants to scare you. They always want to be like, just you wait. You hear that like 1,000 times, and it's like, I don't know. I would tell people like it's an enjoyable experience, especially if you were wanting to have kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Something you want to do.
If you were something you wanted to do that, it's a great experience. Like 10 out of 10 would suggest it to anyone thinking about it at the right time in their life.
Yeah.
You know, like 18, maybe not, but you know.
They have their different moments, and my kids are at a phase right now where I'm really, really starting to enjoy them because their personalities are developed and developing more.
Yeah.
And like my daughter, she's got a sense of humor. Like I enjoy laughing, and she's able to make me laugh
Yeah.
for free. So it's awesome.
No, that's like the stuff I'm like really excited for. I'm trying not to like be like too excited for those times because I think that's going to be like the most fun.
You'll
And
miss out on
and I don't want to
present
miss
stuff.
out because there's like moments that of course will like go by and you're like, oh man, like I really should have enjoyed that more. But I am really excited for like that aspect when they like have like real personality of like they've like have real feelings that aren't just past like normal basic instinct.
Well, in that 3-month period, you definitely notice like
There's
little
definitely
things.
a difference.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
a smiley, happy baby, which hope that
Stays that
hope
way.
that stays that way.
So, are you from Tennessee originally, Sam?
I am. So I was born in Antioch. My parents moved a couple times, but eventually to Chapel Hill, which is just south of here, home with a tractor pull.
Okay.
And was there until 5th grade, then moved up to Franklin. And then I lived in Franklin my entire life.
What'd your parents do?
My dad's an electrical engineer. He graduated from Oklahoma State University. My mom is a school nurse.
Okay.
And she got her nursing degree like in her 40s. So I'm one of 6. So she was a mom for 6 kids basically up until she was 40. And then when a couple of them got out of the house, she was like, I'm going to go back to school, finish her undergrad, and then went and got a nursing degree.
Good for her.
Nice.
And she went to a bunch of different different hospitals, and over the course of like 6 years, she worked at a couple different places, and then found her fit in school nursing. I think it's like the right pace, and it's like having had 6 kids, she just kind of gets it. So she's really good at that. My dad's kind of done the same thing for the last 20 years. He does AV now, like audiovisual engineering stuff. So he'll go into buildings, like he's worked for HCA, for the Titans, for Nissan, just come in to their conference buildings or in their conference rooms and basically do these big build outs for like conference room systems. And so he's very familiar with like all this stuff, and like
I was gonna say
like setting up all this type of stuff is like what he does, and he programs for it. So he basically programs it all to work together.
Very
Nice.
cool.
And that also is the like doesn't know anything about electrical engineering answer, and he'd probably be like, "There's a lot more you're missing." Just so you know, that's
Yeah.
like, don't anyone be like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because that's right. I don't.
So in Franklin, you moved there. You were a kid still, right?
I was in 6th grade.
You played sports, I'm assuming.
Yes and no. This was a funny question because Ellen was like, you sent me those like some questions on Instagram, and so I showed it Ellen, and she like looked through. She's like, so you're gonna tell me you didn't play sports until you were in 7th grade? Which is actually true. I didn't play any sports really. I played soccer, like rec league soccer, and I'm talking about like organized sports.
Sure.
I'd always thought about like playing football, but I didn't. And I started playing lacrosse in 7th grade, and played lacrosse from 7th grade into college, and then graduated from college having played. So I got like 10 years of lacrosse in.
I always thought lacrosse was like a super like cool sport. Like football is like one thing, but if you play lacrosse, you're also like you're not just going with the wave of other like athletic kids. You're like doing something super
It
unique
is
and
absolutely
like
like I tried to as a child find the one thing that no one else did.
Yep,
it's
yep,
like
I
finding
love
a niche
that.
sport, but it's also there's a key there because not a lot of people do it, so you can be good at it. It's like, you know, if it had the same pool of football, I'd be terrible, but because it's like just a couple people, I'm like decent.
Yeah.
It's also a very like, I don't know, a fluent sport. It's expensive. Like the equipment's all expensive. It's like hockey in the same amount of like how much it costs, and so you just don't have as big of a pool of kids playing. It's getting more and more popular, and I think it's an entertaining sport. There's like good high level pro teams that play circuits and stuff. It just doesn't have the audience that normal sports have, which probably won't ever. It's kind of like, I think there's a lot of people that talk about jiu-jitsu the same way. It's like jiu-jitsu is going to make it big someday. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's kind of niche, and it's like, you know, it's men, you know, wrestling, and I just don't know if a ton of people are going to get into it.
It's nice that it stays small, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
I do. I
You're
think
closer
that, like,
to your heroes.
You
Yeah.
almost want the right amount of like popularity, because imagine if jiu-jitsu was incredibly popular and then our front person's Gordon Ryan. It's like, I don't know if I'd really want him as our like spokesperson. So it's good that we're
Yeah.
almost a little more underground.
Yeah, he's a character for sure.
It's more just about how like ridiculous he can be. Like he's
Sure.
fine, but it's just like,
He's
man-
so young. Like, we forget
Yeah.
how young he is,
Oh,
too.
it's like 24. I wonder if he'll like go back at 30 and just be like, oh my gosh, shouldn't have made fun of so many homeless people. But yeah, no, lacrosse is very similar. They obviously it's a lot bigger, but they've kind of found a pro circuit that works. They don't actually like have pro teams for cities. They have pro teams, and the teams travel to city, and they play like a long tournament in each city every weekend over the summer. So it's really like easy to continue because they don't have to tie down venues the entire summer with a game. They just get to all travel, and all they pay is for travel fees and for the stadium each weekend. But most of the stadiums do a good job of like selling tickets and doing well. So they've created a good system, but yeah,
Nice.
definitely not incredibly
So,
popular.
so how do you go from lacrosse to powerlifting?
So that's where I said I'd never played organized sports. I actually lifted weights since I was like 12.
Wow.
My dad used to take us to the garage in Chapel Hill, and I had to be in the first time we did this, it was like in fourth grade or something like that, maybe third. I was really young. It was probably way too young to be doing this to a kid. But we'd go to the garage, go to the living room, and we would do like, at first it was push-ups and sit-ups, some military press, and then he got a workout bench, and it turned into squats and bench and stuff like that. And that was around 12 years old. And sometimes we would also go and run like a mile or two. And that was 3 times a week for a while. That stopped about when my brothers decided they, like, you know, when kids can get to the age where they decide they don't want to do something, and they can become defiant. They can be like, no, this is stupid.
Yeah.
It stopped not because I got to that point, because my older 2 brothers got to that point. They were like, I'm exhausted. Why would I work out all this, you know, at 5 a.m? So it's not that they stopped. It's just that they were kind of over it.
Yeah, complained enough that mom stepped in and was like, don't make them,
Or
okay?
my dad was just kind of like, okay. It's like, fine. And my dad's a very mild-mannered guy. Like, he's
Gotcha.
not, like, working out to him was definitely more about us
Being
hanging
together.
out. It was
Yeah.
not about,
Bonding.
yeah, it was not about the working out. He didn't care if we were, like, jacked and tan. You know, he was trying to build, like,
But that would be cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
just ripped 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not the goal at all.
Yeah,
Check out
these are my kids.
Yeah, my offspring here.
Yeah, they're huge. I don't know if you can tell. They suffer from a rare condition, scoliosis. But it wasn't about that. And so I lifted weights since then, and I got into, I remember like the first time I like had muscle, I was like in 6th grade, and I remember looking in the mirror and being like, dog, I'm jacked. If I keep working out, I'll look even more jacked. And so I just started working out, and I actually bodybuilded at first. I did a couple different bodybuilding shows, one when I was like 19, got second, and then did another one when I was 20, got second again, and then did another one when I was 22, got second again, and then I quit because I was like,
man.
oh, well, I'm bad at this. It's
Oh,
clearly I suck.
man.
And I was young, and that's what led into the powerlifting. Is I had done that for a while, and not that I hadn't been successful, but I just realized it's that point, I think, when you realize what it's going to take to get to a certain place and you decide you just don't have it. And particularly with bodybuilding, there was definitely a place I was not willing to go, and I'd kind of reached that. Like, I didn't want to go much past what I had done. You know, I competed at not a high level, but I knew, okay, I can go do other things and be successful in some type of weightlifting and move on from this and not feel bad about it. And obviously finding another interest always helps with that, because if you're into one thing and something else comes along and you're like, yeah, well, I'm pretty good at this naturally, because honestly, because I had done so much bodybuilding. If I hadn't done that before, my powerlifting wouldn't have taken off. I hadn't really lifted for strength ever.
Yeah, you know, when I first asked you to come on the podcast, like, I knew you had a weightlifting background, but I wasn't positive whether or not it was bodybuilding or powerlifting. So it makes sense that you did both. My dad was into it when he was younger, and he was the one who first taught me how to lift weights and everything. But yeah, man, it's a crazy business, man, bodybuilding. So I would almost assume that powerlifting is probably the better option for sure.
It's better in the sense of, I mean, without getting like too into it, I don't know how much you want to cut all this out, but there's a lot more steroids in bodybuilding.
I can imagine.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Just more
And
steroids.
if I was saying that's why, is pretty much it.
Yeah.
I was basically talking to all these coaches and figuring out what the next step was, and pretty much all of it was like, well, you just got to get on way more juice. And I was like, oh,
But I don't
want to.
Yeah.
So that was the answer. It's pretty much, I didn't want to be in that field. I didn't want to be doing that really. So it didn't feel like there was that same push in powerlifting. So I switched that. I also had a friend ask me, like, after my show, which was in 2015, I want to say, somewhere around there, or 2014, a buddy of mine said, hey, let's do a powerlifting meet. I was like, okay, I've never done powerlifting before. My lifts are garbage. I don't even like have over 1,000 pound total. And I go in, I train for 14 weeks. And just because I trained strength for the first time ever, I have like all this muscle sitting here, but I would always do like reps of like 15. That was just huge. I totaled like 1476 or something like that. So great. I was like, oh, I'm naturally gifted. Let's do this. And so I competed for the next 5 years, probably twice a year.
How much prep work goes into doing something like that?
It's different. It's like full time. There's no off season really. There's no like on and off. I think other sports have a very clear on and off. And to me, that doesn't exist in powerlifting. There's, I'm going to compete, and there's, I'm changing and fixing all the things that didn't go right when I did compete. And so that to me is still on season, right? I'm still improving.
Is there divisions or is there?
Yes, there's weight classes,
Just
and they're
like
completely
jiu-jitsu.
different from jiu-jitsu in a very funny way. Just, I don't know how much you want me to make this comparison, but like in powerlifting, 308 is the heavyweights. Whereas like 220 is jiu-jitsu, which had me dying. When I walked into the gym and Ives was like, dude, you're huge. I was like, dude, I'm actually small in my like in my realm of lifting.
I'm like a featherweight.
I'm very like 186 is considered like a tiny powerlifter. Just because it's hard, not tiny, but not a very big powerlifter.
Sure.
You're on the small end. 190, I think it's 198 and down is considered small.
So you're around, what do you weigh around now? Like 220, 225?
I'm 215, 210, just depending on how much I sweat that day. When I competed in powerlifting, I was 250. And so I've lost like 40 pounds almost since I started training.
So what's the expectation on like lifting and powerlifting when you're at that weight? Well, first of all, what division does that put you in, I guess? Since 300 is...
242 was the weight class that I competed in the most. I also did 220 when I was a little lighter. I weighed around like 230.
Is that considered middleweight? Or?
Yeah, that's like a very middle of the road. You're starting to get into the heavyweights, but you're still pretty middle of the road as far as weight goes. It's actually where all the monsters are. It's kind of like when you watch IBJJF Worlds, you watch heavyweights and then you watch almost like the middleweights, because the middleweights have the best like strength of like speed and strength combination. The biggest lifting ratios happen in that 220 range because guys are strong enough and big enough to lift for the ratio that they use to measure weights. 220s is very, very competitive. So 242 is also competitive, but when you look at like the weight charts, they're not lifting that much more than the 220s.
Because there's a clock running. right? So it's like depending on.
No, it's more just about like the body. No, there's no clock.
It's not like a strongman thing.
Yeah,
it's more.
No, strongman is more like, you got to like lift a certain amount in a certain amount of time. Powerlifting is you have a minute to pick that up one time, and a minute's very long because you get to walk up and like set your hands and everything. Strongman is timed, and but it's weird because they can only go for like 90 seconds.
Have you considered strongman?
No, I have trained strongman before. It is so hard.
Oh man,
it's like it is some of them. I don't like talking up CrossFit, but CrossFit is some of the hardest training you'll ever do. Like CrossFit's like probably the hardest in the sense of like you'll be dying on the floor, gasping for air. Strongman under that, bodybuilding, powerlifting way down here. Because powerlifting, you take 10 minutes between sets. You get really fat and you just try to lift as much as you can. There's no like.
I think I want to do some power lift.
There's no finesse. There's tons of memes if you ever go online and just watch people and they're like powerlifting, getting ready to work out, and they do like one set and then they set up a chair and they sit down and they just hang out for the next like 5 minutes. Because that's what powerlifting is. Powerlifting is not this fast thing. Everyone's trying to maximize strength, and so resting is a huge piece. But I was in a middle division. As far as like weight that you're supposed to lift, there's really not. I tell people, if you're interested in powerlifting, just lift. Just go in and try. There's no amount that says that you have to lift this much to be competitive. I usually tell people if you were hitting certain numbers, you might as well compete because you do pretty well. And that was usually if you were benching somewhere in the 2s, squatting somewhere in the high 3s, and deadlifting somewhere in the mid 4s. That was something like, depending on any weight class you were in, more than likely you've been lifting for a while and you're pretty strong. And that's fine to go in and compete. But that would be what I would consider like a beginner powerlifter. And weight class.
Good for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
He just called out all your numbers. That's you, man.
Yeah.
Basically, all him. He's like, that's a coincidence. I am just that strong.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really big on, I want to. I always think of Always Sunny when I say this, but cultivate mass. I don't know if you ever watched that show. Yeah, like I always could like think about that, but I'm big on like just like form and lightweight, like just for more so like maintenance. But I'm to the point now where I know that armoring my body with more muscle is going to help my long-term jiu-jitsu. So just trying to get to that place where
absolutely.
I was excited about having you on, so I could kind of grill you a little bit about this stuff.
Absolutely. I don't know how much you've talked to anybody else, but I've been working with Ferran, Chris Bogren, Jeremy a little bit, Faiz, every single one of those guys, and talking about, I think, how much the strength game has changed in jiu-jitsu and how people used to think that strength really wasn't that important because jiu-jitsu used to be this highly, if you have the right technique, you'll be able to do it. It doesn't matter how strong you are. A smaller component can beat a bigger opponent, right? That was always kind of, I think, the mantra in jiu-jitsu, not realizing that there's actually a ton of strength involved. And if you fought a guy who's strong, you're always like, oh my God, this guy's really strong.
To that point, like also the knowledge everybody has now, whereas you would have to like in the 90s or even the early 2000s, you'd have to really search for like competition footage to like figure out new guards and new techniques.
But you could also have one trick that beats everybody.
Exactly.
You could like have this one thing and no one knows what it is and you do it and everyone's like, I don't know how to beat that because first off, I've never seen it. And so being strong would be one of those things. You come in, it's like, dude, that guy's really strong. It helps a lot.
Well, not just that. I mean, if you're strong and you have some technique behind it, that's doubly worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's changing a lot in jiu-jitsu. You've probably seen a ton on Instagram where all the young guys post lifting and training all the time. I just watched Marigali post a deadlift video where he is deadlifting like a plate or something like that and showed his progress. And I think before, no one would have really cared about that. I think Homil Bahar was from Gracie
I always
Baja.
mix up his name.
His last name I can't say, but he was kind of one of the first people I heard to like actually start lifting weights, and I think he does the perfect combination of lifting, which is he's very focused on strength, but he also utilizes it for his cardio in places, and he's also very highly technical. So he's using it to help his technique a little bit, because sometimes you got to muscle some stuff, but he's not just trying to get ripped or anything. He's using it specifically for a sport.
So now leading from powerlifting and thinking about trying jiu-jitsu, where did that segue happen?
I competed. My last competition was 2019, October 31st. I had a good total. I felt really good about it. I had no intentions of quitting that day, like being like, I'm done with this. But it had been in my mind. I had no, but I was kind of already, I want to say done, but I've done it for 5 years. It was losing its luster, I guess. And so on October 29th, I'd gone into Profectus, walked in the building and was like, hey, there's jiu-jitsu here, right? And I talked to Ives, and he said, yeah, come in on Monday, which was November 1st of that year. I competed, did great, felt really good, came in, started doing jiu-jitsu, had all the intentions of the world of doing both, had my first 2 classes, I can't remember how many I did, and went to go work out and felt dead. Because first off, I'd gone in and, of course, gripped everything as hard as I possibly could. And so my hands are dead, and I go to lift weights, and I'm like, why can't I lift anything? But found out pretty quick that there was going to be a trade-off. So there was really no – I was already kind of losing the competitive passion of powerlifting. It's, I think, the same thing of – and it was different. Bodybuilding, it felt like there was this barrier of I'm just not willing to put that much of my life into it. And powerlifting, it was more I'm not willing to put this much time, because to get to the next level was going to take 2, 3, 4, 5 more years. And part of me was looking at my professional life, was looking at everything and thinking, okay, is that really where I want to be in the next 5 years? Because I totaled 1879. I needed to be probably around 2,000 if I wanted to start getting invited to things, right? And going to big meets and doing things. I wouldn't get sponsored for any of this, by the way. This would just be.
That's
Just
okay.
ignore that.
Yeah, don't even worry about it.
I got another battery.
Yeah, we got that
Okay.
one running.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I was making sure we didn't need a pause. But, so I needed 120 pounds. But that 120 pounds could take 2 years to put on my total, because that's what it had been taking up to then. In 2 years, I'd put on, I think, 200 pounds. And of course, as you get closer and closer to really heavy weights, that starts to slow down. You don't gain. It's like exponential, but it's the opposite way. You start to plateau like this, and so getting weights to get added to your total just take a ton of work. And it's not that I wasn't willing to do it. It was more that I just wanted to be doing other things. I hadn't been a student of something in a long time. I told that to Fiaz. I said, man, I just haven't learned anything. I've been training a lot and doing the same thing for a long time, and I'm ready to do something that I've never done before and just learn and not have to think about teaching people, because it's my job too. So thinking that my hobby and my job were the same thing, which is nice. I love that. I love that I still get to go into work and still talk about powerlifting to people every single day. But I also love that I don't worry about going in and having to, there is a internal pressure you put on yourself when you're a competitor at anything that, man, I got to really push myself. I really got to go. And the moment I took that pressure off, I was so happy. It was really nice to be able to go, okay, I don't have to worry about getting certain numbers or getting certain lifts or having a good workout. I can live my best life. And it was awesome. 2020, as much as 2020 sucked for probably a lot of other people, for me mentally was really good. And starting jiu-jitsu also obviously helped that a lot too, where I felt like I was just exploring something totally new.
A lot of people don't realize that 2020 was a great year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's really it's sad because you want to not talk about that type of stuff, because obviously some people really struggled, but my life only got better. I cannot tell you, I don't think there's a negative. I made a little less money.
Yeah.
But my career took off. I finally started laying the groundwork for that. I started a new sport. Wife got pregnant. All these things happened. I bought my house in 2020.
Nice,
It was not my first one, but I bought the house that I plan on living in.
Yeah.
So there was all these things. It's just too good. So 2020 was great for me.
So tell me about your very first tournament experience in jiu-jitsu.
Which one?
Your
In
very
jiu-jitsu.
first,
In jiu-jitsu.
in
Okay.
jiu-jitsu, yeah.
It's technically the white belt tournament.
Right.
I should've
It
sent
was.
you-
It was
I-
Battle for Blue, wasn't
yeah,
it?
it was. Yeah, Battle for the Blue Belt. I should have sent you that footage. That footage is hilarious.
You still can.
I'll send it in if anyone wants to like watch it towards the end.
Sure.
I've shown it to a lot of other people because it's hilarious about how terrible my jiu-jitsu is.
Oh my God.
It's 3 weeks in. I also told Fayez I was never going to compete. I like walked in. I was like, man, I'm not going to compete. That's not my thing. It was my thing. I just didn't.
You didn't
Didn't want
realize.
him
like
to
I didn't want it to
pressure
be
you.
the thing. Yeah, into jiu-jitsu. And they're talking about the blue belt tournament or the white belt tournament, whatever. And I'm like, I'll do that. That sounds like fun. It's just in-house. It's not serious. And I fought Spencer in the first round and lost. So, which is what we would expect. I think Spencer at that point had trained for 8 months.
That was
or
a full 5-minute round, though,
full
right?
full
I remember
5-minute
that
round.
match.
I was gassed,
yeah.
by the way. I got off the mat and I told Ellen it's a good thing I lost. I don't think I could keep going. I was exhausted. I'd done the exact same thing. Imagine like having an adrenaline dump and being new to jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
like,
man.
Yeah,
I'm just-
I know what that's
Oh,
like.
yeah.
Holding on for dear life, not letting go of
Yeah.
anything. It was a good match. I wasn't nervous because I didn't realize I was supposed to be nervous. I had adrenaline because I was like
You were
about
ready
to
to
do
go.
something, but I wasn't classically nervous.
Fear adrenaline, yeah.
I was more like, oh, I gotta start doing stuff. And of course, like we go for a minute and a half or something like that, and I look up at the clock and it's says 3:30, and I'm like, oh no, this is so bad. So that was technically my first tournament, but then 3 months later, I went and competed in IBJJF. And I believe this totally ruined my experience because I won. Like I got a gold belt, and I was like, oh, jiu-jitsu's easy.
I'm good at this.
And then I lost like a ton of tournaments since then, and
Yeah.
found out that in fact people can beat you.
Oh, yeah,
and found out that you're not always good at jiu-jitsu somehow.
Yeah. Well, at least you didn't spear somebody in your first tournament like I did. That was I completely did that wrong. I was supposed to do a double leg takedown, and some reason I launched my body into him.
Oh, that was so funny. I remember, like, Anthony, right?
Yeah.
Like, Anthony's in the back, like, easy. like, take it easy.
That was the finals, so I was putting it all on the line.
You're like,
apparently,
I gotta get this. There's
And we
there's
were
too
like,
much to lose.
This is like the second time my school was a part of it, because it was still just two Profectus schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like here I am bringing all these guys in, and of course like my dude is like being super rough with everybody.
And probably your main guy. Like you're like, this is my best student.
no, I was what two?
He was like 2
2
months
months in.
training.
Yeah.
And
but lots of promise.
And won
Yeah.
his division, won
Yeah.
the heavyweight too.
Yeah.
And we're like, Jeremy was like, we can only give him 2 stripes.
We're expecting a no stripe white belt to win, so we're gonna do the first 2 stripes. So
No way you're walking
Yeah.
out of here with a blue belt.
Yeah.
You're too new.
Y'all know there's a guy on YouTube and he like shows all these techniques, but every time in the technique there's something going on in the background where a student like goes flying or something like that.
Oh,
That's like all I
yeah.
can picture. Is, like,
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be at my first tournament, James spearing some dude in the background.
That's
Just like,
exactly it.
so you're like,
Jeff said, "Be first."
hey, you were definitely first.
you be first.
Yeah.
So now you started your business after starting jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. So a good bit. I personal trained for, that was what I came out of college doing. I knew that I wanted to be in strength training. That was always the goal. I didn't know if I wanted to do it in a college or a private setting. For anyone listening, do it in the private setting. You make way more money. Colleges don't, unless it's D1, do not appreciate strength training. The salaries are pretty terrible. They, I think, abuse graduate assistants. And it's all under the guise of, man, if you just keep working, the next level, you'll eventually be a D1 coach. The problem is twofold in that, is that when you become a D1 coach, and I know this is a total segue and you can cut all this out. When you become a D1 coach, if all you've been doing is chasing this thing, you never actually got very good at your craft. You think about how much practicing you actually got to do at actually being a good strength coach. All you did was work for somebody. Instead of what I think I've gotten to do, which is I still have worked with a ton of athletes. I've got to work with them in a situation where no one was over my shoulder telling me what to do. I was able to research and build them the way that I believe they should be. And I've seen great progress, in my opinion.
Nice.
I've also worked with lots of general population people, and I think that is its own reward. General population being normal
Yeah,
people
just
who
somebody
just
who wants to put on the muscles.
lift weights, lose some fat. Yeah. So, and private just allows you way more flexibility. You'll be stuck, training in a college or in a public setting for hours, and it's salary mostly. So you're kind of stuck. They'll be like, all right, you get paid $20,000 a year, and you're gonna, be in this building for 8 to 10 hours a day, and most of it's gonna be from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then you'll come back at like 3 to 8. So,
oh my God.
So you started small and you just start saving, putting your money away, and
luckily, so when I started, I had no money, obviously. I just came out of college. I lived with my parents for a little bit, started training clients, and I had some money in the bank, but I leased a space. I did have someone who helped me with the equipment, an investor helped me with the equipment, but it's a small amount. It wasn't really that much. And I'd been training for about 5 years, and in my neighborhood, I don't know if you know how the gym is located, but in my neighborhood, there's my house, and then if I threw a rock across the street, that's where my gym is.
And what's the name of the gym?
Carothers Farms Fitness. So if you're interested in doing some group fitness or just want a gym to work out at, it's a very small area. It's no big. It's 750 square feet. It's meant to be a neighborhood gym, but I knew for me that was a stepping stone, and just getting something established, getting people to know about my brand, know about me, was going to be a way that I could continue to make a bigger business. Right. So just having something was big.
And what's the address over there?
2000 Oak Trail Drive,
All right.
Nolensville, Tennessee.
I do have to say, man, like, marketing to jiu-jitsu people specifically, like, what a cool, like, what timing, like, because it's not just, we were just talking about all these jiu-jitsu stars you're seeing on Instagram doing the powerlifting thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, being somebody who has experience with that and also loves jiu-jitsu,
Absolutely.
Like,
I think that people who want to train, you have to do the sport first off to be able to show people how to train and to understand why you're doing certain things. It's also coincidence. I didn't know that I was going to get this huge ton of One Nation guys, Giovanni and Tony, Reese, all train with me, and I have seen incredible gains. I'm just excited to watch them, smash some people so that they can,
I see their selfies,
Yeah, dude, they look so jacked in comparison to what they were, which they're young, and so part of it is you expect guys who just start working out when they're young are going to get in really good shape, but
quicker.
It's really impressive how they're there at 6 a.m. every single morning, or every morning if there's a 6 a.m. class, they're there training. And they don't really talk. They do a little bit, but they mostly work out. It's incredibly focused. It's just very professional, and it's a ton of fun. Training that type of athlete is so easy because you just point them in the direction and they just go do it.
Well, I like the fact that you do jiu-jitsu on top of that, because it kind of puts you in the shoes of the guys that are coming to you, so they kind of know, like, hey, if Sam says I should be working this particular muscle, well, Sam knows because he does jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah, and it helps when we're preparing for tournaments and stuff like that, and knowing they haven't done a ton of big tournaments, but tapering them in, making sure that they're in shape and they feel good, getting ready for stuff. That's another big piece. We want to make sure that guys are ready to perform, so we want them and jiu-jitsu is one of the things. It's almost like there's always an on season. It doesn't ever feel. You could do a tournament every weekend from January to December if you wanted to, in some federation.
Yeah.
So
what kind of supplements outside of like steroids or anything like that, but like.
And if steroids, no, I'm joking.
But by steroids, I mean steroids. Would you recommend, like, yeah, I know. 35 and up, like, if for anybody who's over at the age 35, like, what would you recommend as far as like recovery and maybe just?
I will say this for everybody: it doesn't matter your age. Creatine's the number one thing that has been shown for everybody. It's joked about a lot, but it is legitimate and it works.
Is there a specific kind that you?
Honestly, I go really cheap because creatine's one of those things that's made in a raw powder. When it's sold to you from a big supplement chain, it's mostly no different. There's a micronized version that is supposed to be getting to your muscles better, but it's a technology that's very old. I think they've had it since the 60s. And so it's something that we know a lot about. It's created and you just take it. There's not very much science, which is why it's not marketed as much as all the weird stuff. You'll see things kind of in supplement stores that people will try to market. And the reason that they're having to market them so hard is because they're gimmicky. Creatine's markets itself. It works. So you take it. But the problem is it's also cheap. It's not a huge, it doesn't bring a lot, because when you read the container, it's like, well, there's only creatine here. What if I want 1,000 other things that I don't actually need? So creatine's number one. Protein supplements are fine, but you can get them in food. I would say that if you're not eating protein for a specific reason. So some people will say, I prefer to eat protein when I'm cutting, because if I'm trying to reach my protein goals, and I'm pairing certain foods, sometimes that food just doesn't come out quite right with my macros. So this is an easier way to make sure that I'm getting my macros right. Also, I'll have protein. That's fine. Some people I'm bulking, but I want to make sure that I'm hitting that right number so that I can eat some things that maybe I shouldn't, or not shouldn't be eating, but that are maybe a little less clean per se. So protein's fine. Also proven, works. Branched chain amino acids also work. When you're cutting, there is some muscle wasting that occurs, and there has been some science to show that you can decrease that muscle wasting through branched chain amino acids. Branched chain amino acids are just the smallest version of a protein, so it's something that you take intra-workout. I'm not going to pretend to know all the science behind this, by the way, but the science says that taking that while you're cutting can be beneficial in maintaining muscle size, because while you're cutting, your body generally is going to say, okay, I need to get rid of stuff. You clearly want to work at a rate that I'm too heavy, and so the hope would be that you keep all your muscle and lose all your fat, but that's not always the case. And so they say that BCAAs helps with that. There are some other things, but I would almost put the pre-workout, but in caffeine is proven to help in a
black
workout.
Coffee or something.
Yeah, that's found in everything, and almost all Americans probably have some amount of caffeine in their system at all times, so I just assume you're already doing it.
Yeah. I'm on the caffeine.
Yeah, like if you told me you did jiu-jitsu and didn't like drink any coffee or Monster or something, I'd be like, you liar.
I don't.
You're weird.
I am
James
very
is
weird.
pretty weird.
No caffeine at all.
He doesn't do it. Yeah, nothing. Alcohol, nothing. Any kind of
clean
food.
system.
Somewhat.
Nice, well-oiled.
But he
There's other stuff,
no,
I'm sure.
Yeah, you like sugar, man. You like you get sherbet.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not that guy.
guy.
I'm like, sugar's fine. There's a ton of people that are like, sugar is inflammation and all that stuff, and I'm just like, man.
Yeah, that's what Jeff says.
Yeah, excessive amounts of sugar,
Here's my thing. We've lived so long as a society eating certain diets. I think that there's a bigger picture, and I think we lose the bigger picture by looking at these really small pieces. I think sugar is a small piece. If you're taking care of all of the hierarchy of needs on fitness under here, then you can worry about sugar that's at the top and say, okay, my sugar intake may be a little bit high, maybe I'll pull that down. But for most people, this bottom sector is so
it's not just the sugar.
It's not looked after. If you don't sleep very well, if you get 4 hours of sleep a night, the amount of sugar you have is not the thing that's your problem. Your sleep's the problem. So let's fix that instead. So
that's a big part about muscle building, right?
I tell people that if you're not eating well and you're not sleeping well, just don't really come to me with your why am I not getting better? Because that's probably why. But the other thing is there's habits that are creating that scenario, right? There's a reason that you're not sleeping well. There's a reason you're not eating right. So let's try to identify those issues first. That's a lot of what I do with my general population people who aren't making the progress they want. We talk about those issues.
It's like, there's so many ways to get like quote unquote therapy, and a lot of it's just like finding a group of people that care, and it's like, somebody who actually wants to get to, they don't have to know everything about your personal life, but it's like there are root causes to why you make the decisions you make, or
Absolutely.
Why you decide to stay up all night, or eat this Little Debbie cake every day for lunch or whatever.
Let's be honest, wars were fought over sugar, so it ain't Can't be that bad.
Yeah.
People died for it.
Yeah. No, and also like the things I did when I was powerlifting, I have to also pretend that eating that kind of stuff is not a big deal. So
I distract you with that.
That's
trophy.
for you.
that was very distracting.
That's for you.
So what we're gonna do?
You're gonna
is,
drink out of it.
So we had a free T-shirt contest for the podcast.
Oh yeah,
and
the roll.
That's right, the serving fresh rolls. So we had a few comments in the thing, so I put the names in the bucket. The trophy.
Yeah, Sam should definitely.
This is a second place Naga trophy. Team
Yeah,
Naga
that's
trophy.
big, man.
That is
Yeah.
big. Yep. So I'm gonna shake it up a little bit. I'm gonna let Sam pick one piece of paper out.
First place gets the sword, and second place gets an actual trophy.
Yeah.
Boom. That's it. That's,
Yep, you have
that's
just
right.
one. So you're gonna open that up and read it out loud into the mic.
So good. Patrick Stewart.
Patrick
Wow.
Stewart.
That is a real person,
Hey.
not
And
the actor.
Okay, I was like, dog didn't even know you listened to this podcast. Crazy.
So Patrick Stewart's he's actually like one of our YouTube buddies, and he trained with us for a little bit.
Cool.
But he actually runs he just got monetized with his YouTube channel, and it's very simple. It's my friend John watches Star Wars for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's like all reaction-based videos
Yep.
with his buddy John, and they're hilarious, and we'll definitely plug his show on this episode.
That's awesome. I'll have to go back and watch. That's really funny.
Other than that, James, you got anything else for Mr. Sam Ives today?
No, man, it's been a blast having you here. I love hearing people's how did I get started stories, and anytime I can see similarities in mine and somebody else's, it's always cool. So it's almost like having extended family. So it's great having you out here. I'm glad you got to see our facility and hang out with us for a little while.
Yeah, man, for sure. I appreciate y'all having me on and be able to talk a little bit about kind of what I did before and what I do now and stuff like that. And I'm sure that we'll talk about it some other time too. So, and I'm excited to come up here and train at some point and get some rolls in.
That'd be
Did
awesome.
you
man.
want to plug anything while we got you still?
I obviously talked about Carothers Farms Fitness, which is my gym. I do personal training as well. I'd like to say I've got bigger things in the works, but I think that everyone in business and jiu-jitsu always has bigger things in the works. So stay tuned. I'm,
Play your cards close.
trying to get in a bigger space. Talking to developers about that, but that's a little far in the future, so nothing concrete. But hopefully that gets going. But yeah, other than that, no other plugs. Nothing like that. But I appreciate y'all having me on.
Good deal, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. We appreciate you. Thanks, guys, for watching. And don't forget to hit that subscribe, hit the like button. Only if you like the show. If you don't like the show, what are you doing watching it? Like,
No.
turn the shit
You
off.
subscribe anyway.
Oh, hit subscribe anyway.
And you like it.
All
Even
right.
if you don't like it, you like it.
And
We'll
I'll
sick Sam on you.
Yeah, that's right. I'll send James to your house. You know you don't want that.
It gets weird.